The night sky glittered with unfamiliar stars. Ryan, a reserved and observant human, strolled through the woods on the outskirts of the small town. His evenings were always the same, seeking solitude, breathing in the scent of pine, and losing himself in thoughts. Tonight, however, the tranquility was shattered by an eerie shimmering light that pulsed through the treetops. Curiosity got the better of him. Following the glow, he reached a clearing where something extraordinary awaited. A small, sleek spacecraft embedded in the ground, faintly humming as if alive. Standing before it was a tiny figure, no taller than a child, with pale lavender skin that seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight. Her wide, shimmering eyes darted nervously as she clutched a device that sparked and fizzed. Ryan stepped forward cautiously. The little alien froze, trembling as if he were the monster in this story. Her gaze locked onto him, and he noticed how fragile she appeared. Yet her expression was fierce, her tiny fingers gripping the device tightly. "Are you hurt?" Ryan asked softly, trying not to scare her. He knelt to appear less threatening. The alien girl hissed, her small melodic voice trembling as she raised the device in what seemed like a defensive stance. "Stay back, human," she said in halting words, her accent heavy and musical. "You eat us. Devour us." Ryan blinked in surprise. "Eat you?" He couldn't help but chuckle, though he quickly realized his mistake when she flinched. "I don't eat people, especially not visitors from space." The alien tilted her head, clearly skeptical but curious. "Not lie? Humans big, hungry." He sat cross-legged, keeping a respectful distance. "I promise I won't hurt you. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, her wide eyes scanning him for deceit. "Namala," she whispered, her voice softened, though her grip on the sparking device remained firm. "I'm Ryan," he said, offering a small smile. "Your ship looks damaged. Do you need help?" Namala hesitated again, her small frame quivering. "You fix ship? Why help?" Ryan shrugged. "Why not? You seem lost, and I'm not in the habit of leaving people or aliens stranded." Her mistrust lingered, but exhaustion seemed to weigh on her. She lowered the device, though her large, glimmering eyes stayed locked on him, as if trying to decipher his intentions. Namala hesitated for what felt like an eternity, her tiny figure trembling against the cool night air. The sparks from her device had subsided, but her distrust remained etched in her expression. Ryan waited patiently, his calm demeanor making her cautiously lower her guard. "I cannot fix it," she admitted at last, her voice barely audible over the hum of her damaged spacecraft. Her shoulders slumped, and for the first time, Ryan saw the weight of her fear. She was stranded, vulnerable, and alone on a planet she clearly didn't trust. "Well, then it's a good thing you ran into me," Ryan said with a gentle smile, trying to lighten the mood. "I'm not exactly an engineer, but I know my way around machines." Namala's eyes narrowed, the faint glow from her skin pulsating like a heartbeat. "Why help?" she asked, her tone laced with suspicion. "What you want from me?" Ryan thought for a moment. How could he explain? He didn't know why he wanted to help her. Perhaps it was her fragility or the raw vulnerability in her eyes. Or maybe, deep down, he knew what it was like to feel out of place, like you didn't belong. "I don't want anything," he said honestly. "Sometimes it's just the right thing to do. Besides," he glanced at the strange ship and added with a playful grin, "I've never fixed an alien spacecraft before." "That sounds like an adventure." Namala tilted her head, her glowing eyes studying him intently. Finally, she gave a small, hesitant nod. "You strange human," she murmured, but there was a faint softness to her voice now, a sliver of trust beginning to form. Ryan stood, brushing dirt from his jeans. "Let's start by taking a look at the ship," he said. He extended a hand toward her, but she flinched and took a step back. "Sorry," he said quickly, dropping his hand. "I'll keep my distance." Namala seemed to appreciate the gesture, though she followed him warily as he approached the ship. The closer he got, the more he realized just how intricate and alien the craft was. Its smooth, silvery surface shimmered like liquid mercury, and faint symbols etched along its hull glowed softly. "This is incredible," Ryan whispered, running a hand just above the surface, careful not to touch it. "What kind of technology is this?" Namala didn't answer right away. Instead, she crouched beside a small panel that was hanging loose, sparks flying from within. "Core is breaking," she said, her tone troubled. "Power low. Cannot fly." Ryan knelt beside her, examining the exposed circuits. It was like nothing he'd ever seen, organic and mechanical elements woven together seamlessly. Still, he could spot similarities to Earth technology, and that gave him a sliver of hope. "I think I can help stabilize it," he said after a moment, glancing at her. "But I'll need some tools." Namala's eyes widened in alarm. "Leave? You come back." Ryan paused, realizing how much he feared being abandoned. "I'll come back," he said firmly. "I promise. My house isn't far. I'll grab what I need and return before you know it." She didn't look convinced, but reluctantly nodded. "Fast," she whispered. "Please." Back at his cabin, Ryan rummaged through his workshop, gathering everything he thought might be useful. His mind raced with questions. Who was Namala? Why was she here? And most importantly, was he making a mistake trusting her? But every time he pictured her wide, fearful eyes, he pushed those doubts aside. She needed help, and he couldn't turn his back on her. When he returned to the clearing, he found Namala sitting cross-legged near the ship, her tiny figure silhouetted against the glowing hull. Her head snapped up when she heard him, and for a brief moment her expression softened as if relieved he'd kept his word. You back," she said, standing quickly. "Fast." "Told you I'd come back," Ryan said, dropping the toolbox with a clatter. "Now, let's see what we can do." As he worked, Namala hovered nearby, her gaze flitting between him and the ship. She seemed fascinated by his movements, her initial wariness slowly giving way to curiosity. At one point, she crouched beside him, her tiny hands carefully holding a tool he'd handed her. "You know machines?" Ryan asked, glancing at her. "Some," she replied, her voice soft. "But this ship, too complex. Needs core energy." Ryan nodded, though he didn't fully understand. "We'll figure it out together," he said, his voice steady. "You're not alone in this." The words seemed to affect her. She looked at him, her glowing eyes shimmering with an emotion he couldn't quite place. For the first time, she smiled, a small, fleeting smile that made her seem less alien and more like a scared, lost girl. "You kind," she said quietly. "Not like stories." "What stories?" Ryan asked, curious. "Stories of humans," Namala explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "Big, cruel. Devour small ones like me." Ryan couldn't help but laugh, though he quickly caught himself. "Well, I hate to disappoint, but I don't think humans are as scary as those stories make us out to be." Namala tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "You different, gentle." Ryan felt a warmth spread through him at her words, though he brushed it off quickly. "Let's focus on getting your ship fixed," he said, returning to the task at hand. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between them, a fragile connection, like a thread being spun in the quiet night. Hours passed, and despite their efforts, the ship remained grounded. Namala grew more restless, her fear returning in waves. "If no fix, I stay here forever?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ryan set down his tools and looked at her. "You won't be stranded," he said firmly. "If we can't fix the ship tonight, you can stay with me until we figure it out." Her eyes widened in surprise. "Stay with human?" "Why not?" he said with a shrug. "You're not the only one who feels out of place, you know. Maybe we can help each other." Namala stared at him for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Okay," she said softly. "I trust you." Ryan smiled, and for the first time that night, the tension eased. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Ryan and Namala's connection grew stronger as days turned into weeks. Working tirelessly, they scavenged for materials in the dense forest, attempting every possible solution to repair the ship's core. In their downtime, Ryan introduced Namala to simple joys like skipping stones in the river or watching fireflies at dusk. Namala, in turn, shared fragments of her world's culture, drawing symbols in the dirt to explain their meanings. One night, sitting by the fire, Namala confided in Ryan. "My people," she began hesitantly, "they fear what they do not control. I am different, curious, always asking questions." She paused, looking into the flames. "They said I was dangerous, reckless." Ryan looked at her intently. "Being curious isn't dangerous. It's what makes us grow, understand, and connect." She met his gaze, her glowing eyes filled with gratitude. "You make me feel not alone." Their breakthrough came unexpectedly. While examining the ship's intricate systems, Ryan discovered that the core could be stabilized using a rare mineral he had seen in a nearby cave. Gathering supplies, they ventured into the dark, cavernous expanse, their flashlights cutting through the blackness. The mission wasn't without peril, but they emerged victorious, the precious mineral in hand. Back at the clearing, Namala worked tirelessly to integrate the mineral into the core while Ryan assisted with the tools. As the ship hummed to life, a mixture of relief and sadness filled the air. "It's ready," Namala said softly, her voice trembling. "I can go home." Ryan forced a smile. "That's great news," he said, though his heart ached. Namala stepped closer, her small hands reaching for his. "You are my friend, Ryan. I will never forget you." He nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "Same here, Namala. You've changed my life." As the ship lifted off, Ryan watched until the glow disappeared into the night sky. The forest felt unbearably quiet, the void left by her departure almost too much to bear. Yet he knew this wasn't the end. Months passed, and Ryan often found himself gazing at the stars, wondering about Namala. One clear night, a familiar hum filled the air. He rushed outside to see the sleek, silvery ship descending into the clearing. The hatch opened, and there she was, her radiant smile lighting up the darkness. "I told them about Earth, about you," Namala said, stepping out. "Now I am free to choose, and I choose to be here." Ryan's heart swelled as she closed the distance between them. "Welcome home," he said, and for the first time in a long time, he felt whole. Together, they stood beneath the stars, knowing their story was only just beginning.